Well, greetings, friends. Welcome to another episode of Free Range Thinking. And we're here again in our cozy recording caves, and it's a beautiful sunny day here in Bretagne, France. And we're ready to dive into some interesting topics and rabbit holes. Hi, I'm Sharon Lee.
And I'm Alex in almost sunny Bielefeld, Germany, which is not even close to the beauty of the Britannia. I was there for 2 times, I think, and it's so cool to see all these old buildings and almost always see the ocean between those buildings. You drive through a village and you look between 2 or 3 houses and suddenly you see a glimpse of the ocean.
Nice.
So beautiful. But I just totally butchered our intro because
you got sidelined.
every week we serve up a delicious buffet of neurodivergent topics, discussions, questions, and exploration around the subject of living as a neurodivergent human, sometimes in boring Bielefeld, sometimes in beautiful Britannia, sometimes in all other beautiful places in the world. And we enjoy talking about and celebrating how people like us can not only thrive in today's world, but prosper. Because the world desperately needs neurodivergent humans to bring real transformation and evolution to mankind.
Yes.
So we are some
That's
kind
because we are the keys through the shitstorm of a one-size-fits-all world. And that is no joke.
That is no joke, right?
And that is no joke.
And I have a question.
Yes.
That I heard a German podcast with... I always call him the German Bundesphilosoph, Richard David Precht. He's like the one really popular philosopher in Germany. Wherein he always says in France there are like 8, 9, 10 people like him. It's much more common there that philosophers are in talk shows or asked in public about their opinion. And he talked about in a podcast. Do you know the term überflüssig?
I don't remember what that is. I recognize it, but I don't.
It has 2 meanings. That's a problem with it. It has a really negative meaning and it has a positive meaning. On the one hand, if you have something im Überfluss, then that means it's really abundant and you have really a lot of it. On the other hand, if you as a person, if you are feeling that way, if you are feeling überflüssig, that means that nobody needs you anymore.
Aw.
And he said that a lot of problems originate from people who are frightened and anxious about not being needed anymore. Because of digitalization, because of the changing of the workforce and work world, especially those hard labor people, for example, that were, for example, in coal mining. German coal miners, they have a really, really strong ideology and identity connected with their hard work.
Right.
And when those people aren't needed anymore, because we decide as a society we don't want to burn coal anymore, then those people seem to really have a problem because they think nobody needs them anymore. Mm-hmm. And I thought about something you said weeks ago. I said, hey, something along the lines, maybe you can phrase it correctly, but you said something like, my inner life is so rich that I don't necessarily need other people, which I can totally can relate to as an introvert. And my question is, can neurodivergent people live much better with the feeling of being needless in a work environment, because they can they can get so much rich life out of themselves, or they have so much going on that they don't need something from the outside. They don't need to identify with some work group. They don't need to get some kind of awareness, some special awareness from people for their work. Do you think there is
it's a very complex question, interesting question, because not all neurodivergent people are introverted. And so then I would imagine there's a lot of pressure and maybe multiplied feelings of uselessness because we are othered and pushed to the side and made to feel like what we have isn't worth, it doesn't work for society. So I think there's that component of it. I think the people who don't feel it as strongly probably are more of the introverted. Then again, it depends on the family culture, what messages you were told as a child. Very, very complex. I definitely would hesitate to paint it with a broad brush and say yes or no. There's no, again, trying to do what neurotypicals do of putting it in one category and saying all or nothing. It depends. Short answer, it depends. There is if you grow up like I think you or I, where we weren't made to feel by the family culture, definitely not on my side, that there is something wrong with being the way I was and having a rich inner, spending time with myself. I never had the feeling that there was something wrong with that. I was allowed to do and develop how I am, which was, really great. But I know that other people who are introverted, who are neurodivergent, were very pressured in their home environments and made to feel less than. So that while they would love to do that, they have a whole lot of shame and negative feelings around that, around what they do naturally, what they want to do naturally. They feel like they should override that with a better cultural fit. And that's heavy. That's heavy to carry around, to have that programmed as a kid, to then, like, how do you get rid of that as an adult? Some people never become aware of it and they carry it around for their whole lives. But it's, and they feel like, for example, I have a friend who was made to feel that time alone or doing nothing or thinking was being lazy. There's a lot of people that grew up with that message. And so my friend stays busy at all times, but then says things like, I just want to do nothing, but there's so much shame around it. And so she can't ever relax really and do nothing. Totally. She has a hard time enjoying herself when she's doing nothing. And she's always feels like she needs to have permission to do nothing, which is, I'm like, oh, that's so sad.
I can relate to that a bit until I realized that for me, the workaround, it's really hard for me to do nothing. For the one reason because my mind still is like working on something, or it's hard for me to turn that off or ignore it.
Well, wait. Doing nothing doesn't mean not thinking or thinking about something or solving something. What I mean is like physically tasky things that have been seen by society as of value.
Okay.
Because what I'm doing, sorry, it's high value. I look to the outside eye like I'm doing nothing. When in fact, I'm super busy. This is what I mean. That
has to do with the other part It's more like the work ethic I saw in my parents, who were really, really almost Calvinistic without the religious part, hard working, and you have to, if there's something to do, you have to work as long as possible, then finish it the next day if possible, so that you can do the next thing. Yeah, finding the way between those was really hard for me. And it's just several years ago that I found, for me personally, that doing nothing, so really, really doing nothing, I can allow myself when I see it as a tool to do more when I'm done with doing nothing.
Yeah.
But it's almost for me it's the same with the concept of retiring. Retiring. I think we talked about that as well someday. Not on the podcast though. Retiring is not a thing for me, or it's not a concept I can relate to. So for me, it's totally clear that I have to, or that I am going to work until I can't anymore, because I like it. So I will work as long as I drop dead, or something else really terrible happens so that I can't do it anymore, because I like it so much.
But again, what is working? Is it producing something? Because we can have conversations and develop ideas just by having conversations. That's working to me. And I know I've told you, it's like when I was in my very early 20s, I decided that I was retired at that point. And that the rest of my life is spent in retirement. And so I've had it framed that way in my head since my early 20s. And so everything I do, I choose to, what do I want to do during my retirement, my lifelong retirement. Yep. So I, as much as possible, only choose things that I want to do. And but I'm going to jump over to when you were talking about value, and like doing things, value and feeling needed, because those are two things they're connected.
Yes. And
with the identity, who we say who we are. And you mentioned the coal miners, and there's same thing. And before it was just generations of men that suffered with this, where they would, dad would finally retire and he would come home and he would, drive their, when I say dad, not necessarily my dad, but, men would come retire and they would drive their families crazy because then they still want to be the boss at home and boss everybody around. And they're bored because they've retired their identity. And they often get very, very depressed because their identity was all built around who they were at work. So once they retired, who are they? And so this kind of thing, what's the value? Nobody needs me anymore. And that's why a lot of people end up getting divorced when people retire, because then they come home and then who are they? And start, whether they, make the effort to work together at that point, or whether it continues growing, the rift grows wider and wider, and it becomes unsustainable as a relationship. But that's a lot of it has to do with that, is the identity around work. But retirement is, in the doing nothing and of the value and what are you worth as a person, which is crazy.
Is there a connection to being an artist? As we talked about some episodes before, the connection that when you are an artist, you immediately have the right and often the tools to define yourself, because then you can define yourself as an artist, you can identify yourself as an artist, and nobody can say, no, you aren't.
Well, there's a lot of people I come across and they tell me, you know, I'm not creative, I'm not this, because they do not hold a degree in something, which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you can't keep me from being an artist. Even if you cut off my hands, I'm still going to be an artist. It's part of who I am. It's not I study. Now I'm an artist.
Yeah.
It's it's what you well, yes, you could say it's part of my identity, but it's so intertwined with how I think. Like some people I know have an engineering mind, whether they ever practice engineering, whether they hold a degree or not, they have an engineering mind. And because some people don't go through with that, but then they bring that type of thinking into whatever they do. But some things, granted, if the person who's building the bridges that I'm going to drive my car over, yeah, I want you to have a degree. I want you to, and somebody who's like, doing a surgery on me. Yeah. I want you to have the education for that. But the self-education and the passion and the interest of something, what we call ourselves and what we define, a lot of people are very, very uncomfortable with doing the self-definition.
Yeah.
And other people say, yeah, but you don't have a degree, you can't be that. And they're like, oh, okay. It's like bullshit. Bullshit. So it depends. If somebody wants to claim themselves as a singer, with artists, okay, they say, unless you're living by your art, you're not an artist. I would say, well, shit, more than half of like the famous artists can't be claimed as an artist then, because they didn't make any money in their lifetimes, which is ridiculous. Yeah. And the same thing with, a singer or a musician. Now you can say, I'm a professional musician, I'm a recording musician, but, there's people that made records where I don't like it. And to me, it's like horrible, but it doesn't make them any less of a musician or an artist. And so, what's to say? Art's the thing about art. It's kind of,
maybe for a lot of people, the problem is that they want others to like what they do. So they don't need to sell something, but they want to put what they create as an artist or as a scientist or as something, as an entrepreneur, what they put out in the world, at least to be liked, even if people don't want to pay or wouldn't need to pay for it. And you have the artist mind that is fully okay with it, just producing art for themselves without showing it to anyone, and just like the process. And then you have people who create art, but they personally only feel valuable when other people say, oh, that is such a beautiful piece of art.
Well, it's an interesting thing that you laid out, because it sounds like what you're saying, it's one or the other, which it's not. There's all kinds of people in between what you just laid out. But it's like when you think of little kids, they learn. It's a learned thing to stop enjoying it because you enjoy it, and then to look for external. So then you're talking about, now we're in the area of extrinsic, intrinsic. Yeah. So if something brings us pleasure. Now, of course, little kids are like, look, mommy, look, daddy, look, look, I did another one. Look. Of course, that kid is obviously, more, all little kids are kind of like that, but some don't grow out of that. And as adults, you're going to be, some of us are going to be doing things, to get input from others. Like, for example, when I write something or when I'm creating something, the painting or drawing, I have a few people in mind that I think, and it's different people for different things that I'm creating, that I think, oh, so-and-so is going to love this. Mm-hmm. And I imagine them. Mm-hmm. I imagine them. I don't really care if they ever see it, but it's something that inspires me. It's still me intrinsically doing it, but the thought of making somebody else laugh, but even for me, imagining it is enough.
That is
yeah. No.
Sorry.
Now the intrinsic, extrinsic motivators. Of course, it feels good when somebody looks at something and says, "Oh my God, I really like that. That was a really good thing you wrote. That piece was very powerful." Of course, it feels good, but that's not why I'm doing it. So I've been able to retain that childlike joy of just the creating, and I try and help people get back to that, and to peel back the adult I want to say the sullying, the dirtying of of that pure joy of creation. Yeah, it's not always so possible.
That is so powerful, and I'm just started in isolation when I had Corona in March. I started to explore that, like 40 years ago, or 40 years after someday as a child stopped doing that, and just putting lines on paper or experimenting with different movements on paper with a pen, and just seeing what happens, and trying out different things. I often do it in bed when it's almost completely dark, and it's so much fun to draw or to doodle, more or less, in almost pitch black darkness, so that I just barely can see where the pen gets on the paper, and draw for like half an hour, close the book, and in the morning to look at it, how it really looks.
Oh, cool.
That's just I don't know. That's really, I would say 5 or 10 years ago, I would have said, "Oh, that's so pointless. Why are you doing this?"
Right.
And now,
but it's like I'm watching you, and I'm watching you talk about it, and your face is just like totally lit up, and your smile.
Yes.
And it's joy.
Yeah,
that's the childlike joy.
Yeah, that's just joy, and just exploring and trying things out, and doing it just for me. And it's this half an hour or sometimes hour when I'm lying like on the floor in bed and drawing in a really really uncomfortable position, and then wondering how it might look when I wake up and look at it. That's just fun. It's just, and I didn't allow something like that. I didn't allow myself something like that for a really really long time.
That's so cool.
And it's that's something that works for me. I don't know if I ever find some part of my identity in that, or that I identify myself with it in it.
Well, let me ask you a question. Could it be that now part of your identity, not necessarily in the artwork, but now it seems that it's part of your self to experience pure joy? So if somebody said, okay, you have to stop that, what would your reaction be? You can no longer do that. Do things just for the pleasure of it. What would your answer be?
It depends. It depends for the for me it always depends on the why and how good the arguments are. If somebody could give me really, really, really good reasons why I should stop with it, and I don't have better reasons.
What would you say to it as a kid? Stop doing things for joy.
My first, when you asked the question, my first reaction was this: like, you are stupid, you are crazy. Of course, I won't stop it. And my second reaction is, okay, if somebody has a really, really good reason.
But what would be the reason to not participate or create joy for yourself? I can't imagine there's a good argument for that.
You are drawing like 1 or 2 hours in bed instead of sleeping. Then you can't get up in the morning. Whatever.
Okay, then change the amount of time.
Yeah,
but you don't need to. You don't have to do all or nothing. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Like cut that out.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, because to a kid, would you say you need to stop being creative? That's
for me. It's I'm really working on getting rid of the all or nothing mentality because that is quite engraved. We also talked about that. My dad worked in a hospital as a technician, and he is really he's a really skilled handyman and craftsman, and he really is into this. I do it right, or I don't do it at all mentality. For me, that the result is more. For me, it's not I do it right or don't do it at all, but I do it as long as possible if I like it, like reading or like drawing. I can do it as long as I almost fall asleep. And I did that with working for 25 years. I had phases in my life when I worked like until 6 o'clock in the morning. Then I went to bed and slept until 1 p.m. and then started working again. Because I didn't want to stop. Which could be connected to this I do it right or not at all mentality, I think.
Well, we kind of know if we get lost in what we're doing because we love it, that's quite different than do it. Is it perfect yet? Is it perfect yet? Okay, you can't stop because it's not perfect. Those are two different animals.
Yeah.
Those are two different animals.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And for me, it's more in the joy as well. I had the luck that what I earn money with, like writing, most of the time, researching and writing, producing texts, is for me really, really fulfilling, and I really like doing that. So it's hard for me to stop.
Yes, that's a good thing.
Because it's the joy on the one hand, and I can earn money with it on the other hand. So why should I stop with it? But there are other people as well that would like to spend time with me, and they say, "Now come over here because we would like to spend time with you." And that is often the dilemma for me to stop doing it and maybe cut down on my personal joy to find joy together with other people. Because I have to end.
That can be a challenge. Yeah, that can be a challenge.
I have to end the activity. And that is one of the reasons I couldn't explain some minutes ago. I have to end something that gives me a lot of joy and makes me feel really productive and feels me really satisfied and good. I have to end it to start an activity with my girlfriend, my daughter, both of them, which I find joy as well, but the ending of the other thing is really hard for me.
No, I understand that. And it does make me wonder, how do we, people with ADD, it's hard enough to find focus.
Yeah.
And then when we get into it and we're in a flow state, to be interrupted is incredibly disruptive. and there's a no, don't make me stop. I just got started, or I'm just into it. And it's that can be very disappointing and frustrating for sure. And it's because we don't know, it's especially different types of neurodivergence. How do you get, there's no predictability of getting back into a flow state. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to sit down and do this.
Yeah.
And so when we do have it and it feels great, it's and it's super interesting. Yeah, being disrupted is it's kind of almost a shock, a little bit, and
up until it really feels painful.
Yeah.
But what I learned in the last years, I would say, especially in the lockdown times or in the pandemic, is that I can reach the flow states. I can reach them quite easily. I just have to start doing the work. And sometimes it's just really, okay, start doing it, and then the flow state you get into the flow state quite quickly, but I have to remind me of that every time, because it's hard to imagine, or it's hard it's hard to remind yourself about how easy it can be to get into the flow state, because you think, I have to work so hard and it does take so long, and all the books say it takes quite a long time. But in reality, for me, it is just starting, and then it's just some minutes. But the sitting down and starting it, that is the hard part.
Yeah. It's the quieting the mind and the other stuff that is encroaching on my brain space. My list of, a lot of times, a list of to-dos, and trying to turn off that part of my brain is sometimes difficult, because my brain seems to be working on something that I have no control over. It's like right now I have the retreat, the live retreat, in-person live retreat. Woohoo! And so that's going to be end of June, beginning of July, that week right there. And it's so much fun and so interesting that it's all I want to think about. It's all I want to work on. And I've got so many good ideas around it, and the fine tuning of it, and the going in and thinking about it, and so it's like my brain is completely occupied with this. So I'm trying to work on other things, but the retreat stuff, because it's so much fun, kind of elbows its way in and to other stuff that I'm trying to write. So I have to just take notes on the side, and because I can't keep the thoughts from surfacing. And they're great ideas. So it's like if I don't get them down, then they're gone, and I'll be like, oh shit, I forgot. It's like, oh, I had a couple good ideas. I'm like, oh, they're gone. So I hope they'll surface back around, but hard to say.
It's so I'm experimenting with different kinds of note taking. So I have my digital obsidian tool, which evolved from taking notes in Evernote or in Apple Notes, where I can. It's like a personal wiki, where I put all my stuff until January, I would say. And in January, I started dabbling around with bullet journaling again after not doing bullet journaling for 2 or 3 years, I guess. I think because of the pandemic, because in the pandemic, there wasn't happening so much, so I didn't do the bullet journaling. And I now started. My girlfriend always laughs when I come around with all my books, because now I have a sketchbook that I carry around in the apartment. I have my bullet journal where I put in everything that comes to my mind that I have to do, but I try not to do just a to-do list, what I have to do. I also write down what's happening that's significant. I write down what I don't want to forget, like the ideas you said. I write down what I have done. So it's a done list as well, especially because of the ADD, I often do things that need to be done someday. Maybe not now, but I do them anyway because I like to do them. Then the stuff of my to-do list doesn't get finished, and in the end of the day, I feel bad because they are just unticked items on the to-do list, but nothing I did. So when I started to write down, I just feel better because in the end of the day, I can look. Okay, you have 3 or 4 unfinished to-dos, but you have done 14 other things.
Yes.
Then I don't feel ashamed anymore because when there are just 4 unticked to-dos and nothing else in your list, especially in a digital list, you just feel bad about yourself. And when you see, it was a productive day. It didn't went as I planned it, but it was still productive. Or it was still maybe not productive. Maybe I was on the phone with a friend who needs some help or motivation for 3 hours or whatever, and I talked on the phone for 3 hours. That wasn't productive for me in the same amount. Maybe the other things on my to-do list would have been, but I helped somebody for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So no reason to feel bad about that. But if I don't write it down, I just forget it.
Yeah.
And in the end of the day, I would feel like didn't make anything. And then I started a commonplace book where I write down everything I want to read again in the future. So like quotes or life hacks or interesting facts, whatever, that I want to present to my future self in some way, so that I can flip through that and just remind me of something, or just give me a smile, or work on it later. I have an interesting idea. So at the moment, I have at least these four parts of the system.
No, it's like I'm always curious and asking people, like, what systems do they have? Of course, it's always my quest is for finding something that actually works for me. But but I'm also just fascinated by what people are doing to keep themselves on track, keep themselves focused, keep themselves, hate to use the word productive because that's kind of a slippery slope of judgment.
Yeah.
And I did notice you said it like 3 times. I couldn't help but notice that you said that, yada, yada, blah, 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 so that I don't feel bad, so that I don't feel ashamed. And I was like, God, that's such a strong motivator for a lot of people. And I've noticed the absence of that in my own. And it's like, okay, do I not give a shit? Am I really that lazy? Am I? And I laugh because I'm thinking, I don't care. But it's funny because there's no punishment on my side of that. If I don't have a thing, I'll go, well, that didn't get done today. Because this is literally what it sounds like in my head. And I was like, well, look at that. That didn't get done today. Huh. All right. Now, is it something critical? So then I go into an assessment. Is it something critical, or is it, can I, what is it? But there's no, and then I'd make a decision of what I'm going to do with it. But I'm always surprised when I hear people run through it like you did, and how much shame and punishment is involved in your daily thing.
And I just realized why shame and punishment are such bad motivators. Because they only motivate you away from something,
right?
But not towards something that you
Absolutely.
would like to achieve. It's like just running around in panic.
Right, right. And it doesn't make us do anything.
Yeah,
it's just punishment. It's just pure punishment.
Yeah.
Never, has ever motivated me. The thing that motivates me is if I can turn it around and find something about it that's interesting. Which is why I thought that was what Hannah Gatsby said about the what's important and what's interesting. And so if I can turn the important things into, or find some component in it, and kind of trick myself a little bit, or something about it, then I have a better chance of actually making it happen.
And maybe there is the connection again to, for example, the coal miners. I don't think most of them went into a mine because they found it interesting. I guess most of them didn't found it important as well. They just had to do it because otherwise they would have been punished, literally punished, or would have been punished through the shame that they won't provide for the family, or the family had to be hungry or so.
But I'm sure, like their crew, there's something interesting about the crew. There's motivating factors when you have a crew that you like and that you trust. Yes. And when it becomes pure hell is when you don't have a good crew, or you can't trust people, and there's no camaraderie, so that there's nothing beneficial out of it. And then that's a very bleak existence, I think.
And you can't help. It's hard to reframe it for yourself when you described how you think of somebody when you're doing an artwork, for example. That was one of the first pieces of advice I got from my blogging mentor in 2006, 2007, I would say, who said he always, because he was really productive in his most successful days, when he had the most read blog in Germany, or in the German language, he was writing 5, 6, 7, 8 articles a day, and they all were really interesting and really witty. And he said he always thinks of 1 or 2 persons he writes the articles for. And he said almost the same as you did some minutes ago. He doesn't care if those people are reading it, but he imagines them so that he can address a real person with his writing. And that's why his writing was so good, was so interesting. Because he connected it to another human being every time.
Yeah. And of course, we're connecting to parts of ourselves as we're writing it, but it's there.
Yes.
There's, because most of the time it's my mother, because she was so smart. And so it's like, okay, what would be interesting, and things that I wanted to talk about, discussions that I would love to have that I can't, now I can no longer have. But there's, because she would, for example, she would just be fascinated by everything that's going on right now with the pandemic and the window of opportunity that humanity has, being that there's, everybody had to, endure. For some people, it's not necessarily enduring, but some of us, it was great, but to have to endure the great pause and have to do a lot of self-reflection. I mean, this is really interesting. It's very historic. And I know that, oh my God, the conversations that we would be having if she was still alive. And so when I think a lot, it's like I had this kind of ongoing dialogue in my head with her. And it, I can't not do it. It's impossible to not do it. And, and it's not that I want like the approval thing. I just imagine.
We could scratch the downhill parking from last time a little bit. I just was wondering, do you have a tip on how you can make first steps to remove shame and judgment and self-punishment from something?
Sure, I've got a lot of ideas and opinions about that. whether other people, can or should incorporate it is a whole nother question.
Let me frame it another way. Let me frame it another way. What would Sharon's mom say?
That's an excellent question. It's definitely has to do with the self-awareness. And I think I had mentioned to you before that the thing that I've seen that is absolutely the most effective, and the thing that's very interesting about the method is that the positive intelligence thing. So it's like going to a gym for your brain, of being aware in the moment. And so this is what I do naturally. And before coming across the whole PQ program, I was, and the reason I got interested in it was to find better languaging around how it is that I do what I do, because I've always had this struggle of trying to describe how it is for me, and people either thought I was lying, and full of shit. Like, that's not really possible. You don't do that, I could tell people's expressions, like that's not a real thing, when in fact it is. And so, but they have it broken down into the being awareness. And I think that because have such a high level of awareness with being HSP, that is, it explains a lot of like why that is easier for me to do. So in the moment, I know what the emotion is. I know what's going on. I can see it as it's happening. So it doesn't, for me, it's not, it's not logical to the punishment factor and the shame factor. It doesn't have any place, in the world for me. But it's if I have a natural connection, I have access is probably a better word, to perspective. in the moment, like at any given moment, all the time. Therefore, it's if something happens and I'm like, ooh, that was uncomfortable. And then it's like, I instantly picture it, 30 years from now. And I'm like, ugh, how would I have wanted to behave right now? Like, oh, okay, yeah. And so, but there's no punishment in there. There's no, because shame is attached to punishment. Now guilt is a thing that is, about a thing. Shame is about who we are and the identity. Of course, Brene Brown is really, really good at describing all these. And I've got her new book, The Atlas of the Heart. I haven't read it yet. I've just kind of flipped through it. And it's phenomenal. I'm really, really happy that people are doing the work around emotions and bringing about more awareness, because it has to do with awareness. And as soon as we're aware of it, especially as it's happening, but again, that takes practice. And I go back to it and I say with the PQ program, the Positive Intelligence program, they literally teach you how to do that. And I've never seen anything like that. And it's really helped a few of my friends to stop cannibalizing themselves. So it's quite something. It's not an overnight magic pill, because to get you to the point as an adult where you're cannibalizing yourself on such a hardcore level, that took years and years and years. So the expectation, again, perspective and expectations play a big role in this. So it's like if you have, to have an expectation that's going to be magic pill and take it overnight and, voila, you're cured, you're never going to punish yourself again. That's unrealistic. That's an ongoing practice. But that's kind of the short answer from what you're asking, I think. So recovering from shame and the saboteurs, because he calls them specifically saboteurs, to be able to recognize the saboteurs while they're doing what they're doing and say, okay, I see you. I know you have a job. You have a primal job to keep me from, getting killed or getting eaten by tigers and bears. I understand you have a fear, but we don't need you right now. Thanks for your opinion. I'm driving. Yeah, he calls them saboteurs. And there's Shéhérazade, the guy who came up with the PQ program, the Positive Intelligence program. And it's a really good word because they sabotage us, or they try to. Mine are very, very low volume, and they do their job. I recognize them. But then the other side, which she calls the sage side, which mine are highly developed, both from my personality type and from growing up with my mom. But it's awareness. Awareness is the biggest part of it. And to be in the moment, to be able to say, I recognize what's going on, and choosing not to. But sometimes it's the emotions want to pull us off track. When I say pull us off track, I mean us as humans, because the emotions are very, very strong. And so, but to be able to have more of a self-command, this is what people are craving when they're saying, God, I wish I could stop that. I wish I could stop that. It's like, well, you can, but, careful not to shame yourself that your muscles aren't, that your muscles are atrophied or they've never been developed in that manner, but there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it.
What do you mean with awareness? Could you explain it a little bit? Is it something like mindfulness or? Yes,
mindfulness and awareness. Mindfulness is being I want to say overutilized but at the same time unexplained. But mindfulness is awareness, to be.
Could it be that, I mean, I'm not a native speaker, that's why I'm asking that detailed about it, because I really have a problem with both terms. Could it be that mindfulness is more like this Eastern philosophy way, and awareness is a little bit more the practical, less spiritual Western?
No, it's the same thing.
way?
Same thing. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Same thing. It's just a different, because they say the awareness, because it could be, the Eastern philosophy as well, where they say the awareness of, be here now, the be in the now. Because a lot of times the saboteurs are punishing and like the perfectionism is one of the saboteurs. There's like, I think 8 or 9 of them. I should know this.
For me, both of them are really hard to wrap my head around, because I understand the concept, and I understood for some degree that when you're always living in the past, you are thinking about the past, you are thinking about something you can't change, and
you're in judgment.
You're in judgment when you are thinking always in the future. Then you won't get anything done. You might be anxious about what the future brings.
Well, hold on a second. It depends if you're future looking from a sage position, or if you're future looking from a saboteur position, because there's judgment attached to the saboteurs. When you're in the sage position, you can, and a word he uses a lot, which I understand because my mother would talk about this as well, is discernment.
What's that?
It's discernment, and it's like, so you can look at something for what it is without judgment on it. And so this is kind of what I do. This is kind of the position that I'm pretty much my baseline, let's say. So it's not it's like, oh, what is that? Because you can look at something and you don't have an emotion attached to it. You're just looking at it for what it is in the moment. And then you can make a decision, about something or not. But if it's the past, if we look at the past and say, okay, that happened, that's a pattern, that's interesting, just noticing. And then that's part of the awareness of the, just noticing, but without judgment on it. Which is, again, it's a practice. I accidentally do it. I don't know why I accidentally do it. It's just, and I've always been this way. But I've had a hard time describing it until I saw what he does with his program, and I was like, okay, that's what I do.
Describing things that come totally natural to you is I think one of the hardest things ever, because you just do them, or you just live them, and the theoretical concept behind it, you don't need it, so you can't explain it, because it just works for you.
Yeah, but I also noticed, I've noticed my whole life what people were doing, and but when I described how I did what I did, they were like, "That's not possible." And I'm like, "Okay," and then it's just so, all right, I'm not going to share it with you because I thought, okay, either you're not listening, or you're not paying attention, or you're choosing to go against this. So why waste my breath? Is sort of a thing. You're not ready, or I wasn't quite sure about that, because you're not ready is a judgment, and I didn't feel that way about it. But I noticed, like, why would they keep doing that? They asked me a question, I told them the answer, so why would they keep choosing to do it that way? So it took me a while to figure out that how powerful the saboteurs and the emotions around all this, and how powerful shame is. And my God, it's crazy powerful. But there is a solution. There is literally, like a gym, you can do things that actually counteract it. One of the things oh shoot, I had a thought I was gonna, but I feel like it's jumped over it to continue what I was saying, and now I don't remember. I can't get back.
I just had the idea that it's a little bit comparable to the aphantasia, hyperphantasia, because if nobody heard of that and you try to describe to somebody, yeah, I'm just blind in my mind's eye. I don't have any pictures in my head. For me, it was always normal. I thought everybody's mind works like that.
Right.
And now that I know it, then explaining it to others that never experienced something like that is still really hard. And there are lots of people who say, no, that's not possible. You just have to train, or you just have to work on it. And yeah, I think that is something that's really, really hard to explain then. Yeah.
Yeah, and some things, which the thing with the emotions and the discernment and seeing things in the moment and the awareness, that is trainable, totally. The thing that you're talking about with the aphantasia and hyperphantasia, that is not. You can maybe boost some skills, but you cannot change that. That is a hardwiring thing. For example, I was surprised to find out, I was in my 20s when I found it out, but I see things in 3D. I think in 3D. I did not know that a very large number of people can't think in 3D. And
I can't even see in 3D.
Yeah. And especially it's women, it's more men than women think in 3D. And I was like, what? I was like, really? You can't? And that blows my mind. That blows my mind. I can't even imagine not having that. But I know for a fact that you can't train that. You can't, somebody who can't see in 3D, think in 3D, not see in 3D, think in 3D, you can't train that. You can't, there's no way to get that if you aren't hardwired that way. And so there's certain things that it's like saying to somebody who's dyslexic, okay, you can do a workaround with it, but people won't not be dyslexic anymore, and numerically dyslexic for me. I'm never not going to be dyslexic. There's just no way around that. But at the same time, it also gives me gifts to be able to think outside the box and see solutions in a very unusual manner. I see things other people don't see, but other people see things that I don't see, so which is why we need a diverse group of people especially people who are making important decisions about communities and cultures.
Yeah.
We definitely need to have a full rainbow spectrum of diversity to make sure everybody's taken into account, and we make discerning good, we make decisions with discernment. Yeah. Voila, we're done. We saved the world.
Yep.
Feierabend. Feierabend.
Yeah.
But again, it's like the things that we can change if we want to, but some people don't, and we shouldn't shame each other into changing or evolving if people don't want to. That it's their choice, I do admit, that myself included, I can't help it, because I know the difference between what can and cannot be changed. I don't force it on anybody, but some people, when I know that they're actively choosing not to practice or evolve something, there's some disappointment in there. I do admit, I can't help it, because it's like, if you have the solution and you could stop suffering, why would you choose the other thing? I mean, I'm guessing it's because my first and automatic guess for a lot of this stuff is out of fear, that people don't do it for one reason or another, but fear-based.
Let's use that as the parking downhill, because that was a question I had. Why do people? The question I would like to park is why do people choose suffering?
Woo, I don't. That's a hot button item. Because that's what it seems like. That's what it feels like sometimes. It's like, yeah, why do people choose to suffer? Because that's an assumption.
Yeah, or why don't they try to find the way out of the suffering? I have some ideas about that.
Cool. Yeah, we'll save that for next time. That's a hot button item right there. And there's a lot of assumption in that. There's, because I used to say I don't have any prejudice except for self-imposed ignorance. I used to say that all the time from when I was really young. And it's like, if you know something else is different, could be different, or could be possible, or could be, which of course was very judgmental and on my part. I'm still not totally unconnected with that feeling. Because why? Why would you not? Why would you choose to not evolve? Because to me, that's a total choice. So the only thing that jumps out at me is that they wouldn't do it because of fear of being different. But yes, we should totally say that and jump in on that next time.
Absolutely.
And I'll expose to you all of my judgments and biases. Cool. Excellent. Well, for those few of you who have joined us, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
And
until next week.
Yes, until
and then
next week.
We see if we get the car rolling downhill, or if we jump into a whole other car.
We jump off a cliff. We roll the car off a cliff.
Yes, and build the car on the way down. And then realize we should have built a plane.
Yes.